The standoff over Gaza has entered yet another critical phase. US President Donald Trump has given Hamas until Sunday evening to respond to his peace proposal, a move that has heightened both anticipation and tensions across the region. Diplomatic efforts are underway as Qatar, Egypt and Turkey engage in intense talks with Hamas leaders, attempting to persuade them to accept the deal. Yet the process faces major obstacles, chief among them the staunch backing that Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has long extended to the Islamist group, a position that has been a persistent source of friction with Israel. The ongoing war in Gaza has already strained Turkey-Israel relations to breaking point. Analysts now warn that the conflict could spill over beyond Gaza's borders. Some experts even caution that Israel might consider targeting Hamas operatives on Turkish soil, a prospect that Ankara views with alarm. Our correspondent Julia Hahn reports from Istanbul, capturing the mood on the streets and in the halls of power. In Istanbul, the atmosphere is charged with solidarity for the Palestinian cause. Across Turkey, rallies and public vigils echo this sentiment. The escalating conflict in Gaza, which local media and officials say has claimed over 65,000 lives so far, has stirred grief and anger in equal measure. The Israeli campaign has expanded to include strikes on targets in neighbouring countries, raising an uneasy question. Could Turkey be next? On Istanbul's streets, the sense of unease is palpable. One resident voiced the concerns of many, saying, "Of course, Israel is a risk factor. How could it not be? It's a risk factor for us, and they are just waiting for a pretext to attack." Another man expressed defiance mixed with hope. "If they attack us, they will get their just punishment. I don't think they'll strike. I don't think they have the courage to do so." These public sentiments reflect a narrative consistently advanced by President Erdogan, who has been one of the most outspoken critics of Israel's ongoing military operations. Erdogan declared, "We are telling the world Israel's aggression is now an absolute threat that must be stopped for our region." His remarks have resonated strongly within Turkey, further hardening the government's stance. Tensions soared after an Israeli airstrike last month targeted a meeting of Hamas officials in Qatar, killing 6 people. The incident was particularly sensitive because it took place on the territory of a country regarded as a close US ally and a key mediator in ongoing Gaza ceasefire talks. For Ankara, it was a clear sign that Israel's reach and intentions might extend far beyond Gaza. Analysts in Turkey view these attacks not as isolated incidents, but as part of a larger, more strategic campaign. Turkey is highly concerned for Ankara. I think Israeli strikes, not just in Qatar, but also in Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Yemen, are not isolated tactical events, but I would say they are part of a broader Israeli strategy to establish a fragmented buffer zone of weak and pacified states around it. Since the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, Israel has extended its military actions to several countries in the region. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has consistently articulated his uncompromising objective to eradicate Hamas. Netanyahu warned, "And I say to Qatar and all nations who harbour terrorists, you either expel them or you bring them to justice, because if you don't, we will." Although Netanyahu issued a formal apology to Qatar at the urging of President Trump, the move has done little to ease anxieties in Ankara. Turkey remains wary of Israel's intentions, particularly as the Erdogan government continues to provide political and, at times, logistical support to Hamas. Turkish officials have long welcomed Hamas representatives in Ankara, and several senior members of the group are widely believed to reside in Turkey. The prospect of Israel conducting strikes on Turkish territory has become a subject of heated debate among regional experts. Turkey, after all, is a major power with NATO's second-largest military force, and any overt Israeli military action against it would carry grave risks. If Israel genuinely wants to go after the remaining Hamas leaders, and there's not a whole lot of them after 2 years of fighting against Hamas, I guess it has different options of doing that rather than dropping bombs from airplanes in different countries. Another expert added that while a large-scale Israeli strike on Turkish soil remains unlikely, a different kind of escalation cannot be ruled out. What could be a potential point of escalation? Targeted killings on Turkish soil. So an attempt by Mossad to hit against Hamas leaders sheltered in Turkey. And that's, I think, the most likely scenario. Turkey, keenly aware of these risks, has been stepping up its military preparedness. The shift became more pronounced after Israel's attack on Iran's nuclear facilities in June, a dramatic escalation that signaled Israel's willingness to act far beyond its borders. In response, President Erdogan announced an increase in Turkey's missile production and personally inaugurated the country's new Steel Dome integrated air defense system, a significant milestone in Ankara's bid to bolster its defensive capabilities. Turkey is taking precautionary measures to accelerate its indigenous air defense and aerospace programs to come up to a standard where if one day it has to face Israel in the battlefield, it will have a stronger front line. Despite these preparations, many observers believe both sides have a vested interest in avoiding direct confrontation. I think until now, both countries are trying to avoid direct confrontation between them, and it's good that this is the case. I hope it will continue, said another expert. On the streets of Istanbul, ordinary people express a similar hope that diplomacy and restraint will prevail over escalation. The toll of the war in Gaza has left many in Turkey yearning for peace. A local shopkeeper summarized the sentiment shared by many. We do not want to see another escalation. We want the war in Gaza to end and for the Palestinians and Turks to live in peace. The stakes remain high as the deadline set by President Trump looms. The involvement of Qatar, Egypt and Turkey underscores the complex web of regional diplomacy at play. Ankara's role is particularly delicate, a NATO member and a long-standing US ally, yet one that openly backs Hamas and maintains a tense relationship with Israel. For now, the focus is on whether Hamas will accept Trump's peace proposal before the deadline. Failure to do so could trigger a new phase of violence, one that risks dragging in more regional players and destabilizing an already volatile region. The unfolding drama highlights the precarious balance between diplomacy and conflict in the Middle East. The interplay between US pressure, Israel's military calculus, Hamas's defiance, and Turkey's outspoken advocacy for the Palestinian cause has created an environment fraught with uncertainty. As night falls over Istanbul, the mood is somber but determined. People continue to watch developments closely, aware that the coming days could define not only the future of Gaza, but also the trajectory of Turkey's relationship with Israel and perhaps the wider regional order.